Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today for the latest webinar in our webinar series, Taking It to the Streets, where we're going to discuss updated Safe Streets packages. So let's get right to it and talk about the agenda for today's webinar. We're going to start this webinar off by giving you an overview of who Safe Streets is, what our partnership is, and what you can expect from a Safe Streets install. Then we'll spend some time breaking down these new packages. From there, we'll go to best practices and setting the expectation for sales. And like all of our webinars, we will wrap up with a Q&A session. So about halfway through this, you'll see a bubble pop up or the screen change where you can start submitting your questions for the Q&A. So all Safe Streets related questions, send those into the Q&A and we'll get those answered after this portion of the presentation. So first, let's start by talking about who Safe Streets is and what our partnership with Safe Streets looks like. Freedom Forever and Safe Streets have joined forces to create a smart home and smart energy solution. Each Freedom Forever install in the Safe Streets coverage map is eligible for a Google Smart Home promotion. Safe Streets brings exceptional quality, speed, and value immediately following the solar sale to create a better customer experience. Now, this promotion applies to all Freedom financing types that we currently offer. So who is Safe Streets in general? Well, they've had a 25-year partnership with ADT. They have over 143,000 five-star reviews. They're ranked #1 in best home improvement on Trustpilot, and they currently have 400 smart security pros nationwide. They've done over 2.5 million combined installs, and we've been using them for a long time for our smart home promotion. But to give you a better idea of who they are, let's watch a brief video that they've provided to us to give you an idea of what this is going to look like when you combine a smart home solution with your Freedom Forever install.
Step into a new era of smart home security and service. Cutting-edge technology meets personalized care, delivering unparalleled safety. Our teamwork ensures top-notch protection and trustworthy service, all while unlocking incredible energy savings through smart home innovations. And discover the unprecedented energy savings that come with the ultimate smart home security.
Great, so let's look at the new Safe Streets packages and really dive into what each one of these offers. So let's start off with the smart home basics. This includes a video doorbell, an energy-saving thermostat, an Alarm.com gateway, a solar production ADC app, and the first 12 months are free. The package monthly monitoring rate after that first 12 months is $10 a month. The second package is the Smart Home Essentials, where you'll get the IQ Hub touchscreen panel, 3 door or window contact points, a motion detector, a video doorbell, an energy-saving thermostat, and a solar project tracker in the IQ Hub and the solar production IQ Hub and Alarm.com app. Now, for the Smart Home Essentials, the first 12 months are free and the package monthly monitoring rate is $30 a month. Now we'll move on to the Smart Home Premium, which includes the panel, this time 4 door window contacts, the same motion detector, video doorbell, thermostat. This includes a smart door lock, an indoor video camera, a smoke heat or carbon monoxide sensor, a lamp module, and then those project trackers and IQ hubs as well. This package is 12 months free. After those 12 months, $50 per month. And the final package is the Smart Home Premium Plus, which includes everything from the Smart Home Premium, but also has 2 outdoor cameras. First 12 months free for this, and then following the conclusion of that, the package monthly monitoring rate is $60 per month. So here's the one-pager that we'll be uploading to the Sales Resource Center that you can download and keep for use when you are doing your sales process. This will break down all those packages so you can offer these to your customers. Now, what is the product pricing for these packages? For our dealers enrolled in the PTO Pay program, for the basics, there is no adder. For the Smart Home Essentials, it's $480. For the Premium, it's $1040. And for the Smart Home Premium Plus, it's $1380. Dealers that are not enrolled in the PTO Pay program, the basics will be $800, the Smart Home Essentials $1280, the Premium $1840, and the Premium Plus $2180. Now, before we move on to best practices, we do want to mention that with these packages, anything above the basics, so the Essentials, Premium, and Premium Plus, will soon offer residuals. And when that gets released, we'll probably have another video or webinar to talk about the residual program with Safe Streets, but that is coming soon. Okay, so now let's move over to the best practices and setting proper expectations for your Safe Streets install. So let's talk about the key cancellation policy. The grace period for free cancellation is 3 days. Customers have 3 days to cancel their Safe Streets install without a cancellation fee if a smart home system has not been installed. After that grace period, they will incur a cancellation fee. Let's talk about sales rep accountability. So if a sales rep wrongly promises no cancellation fee, that sales rep will be charged instead of the customer. If the customer attempts to cancel within 3 days but didn't follow the correct process, which is reaching out directly to Safe Streets to initiate that cancel, they must still pay the fee. There are proper instructions in the agreement, so encourage the homeowners to read that portion of the agreement. Calling the rep is not canceling, so they must follow the steps in the agreement to ensure that if they're going to cancel their project, they follow the right procedure. So that being the case, sales reps should ensure customers understand the process to avoid those disputes. Special cases and payment plans. No cancellation fee applies if the customer is denied financing or their project is disqualified. Now, if the customer refuses to pay, their account will be sent to collections, which could negatively affect their credit. If they cannot afford to pay the fees associated with canceling after that grace period, they can set up payment plans. They're available to help manage those costs. So some key takeaways for sales reps: clearly explain the cancellation policy to customers up front. Do not make false promises about fees. The reps will be held accountable. And encourage customers to follow the correct cancellation process and be proactive in preventing customer disputes over cancellation fees. All right, we've reached that portion of the presentation where we're going to do a Q&A session. So about halfway through, you saw that bubble pop up where you can start submitting questions. So if you haven't, start submitting those questions now, and we'll get those questions answered. All right, y'all, thank you. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. We are at our Q&A session. So if you have some questions about the presentation, about the Safe Streets packages, drop those in the Q&A, and we will get those questions answered. Thank you so much for being here. We have folks from Freedom, folks from Safe Streets, so we'll be able to answer any questions you may have about this new process. And while we're here waiting for some questions to come in, we do want to point out that these new Safe Streets packages are intended to go live Monday next week. We will send out communications when these new products go live, so look for that early next week. All right, let's get to our first question. This question is from Michael. And it is, so the customer has 3 days to cancel after install or after signing, but before install. Josiah, do you want to answer that about the cancellation policy?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so anytime we do an install that has a monitoring contract, they have a 3-day right of rescission to cancel that contract. In this structure where we're doing the installation as a service and it comes included with their solar project, then if they really want to quote unquote cancel the service or the subscription that comes included, they'd want to do that before install.
All right, appreciate that. Okay, so this one's going to be also for you, Josiah. If the customer chooses not to continue with the service after 12 months, what happens with the equipment?
They get to keep the equipment. So whether they decide to continue service or not after the 12 free months, they get the equipment, so it's theirs.
And can you clarify about the cancellation policy? There is no cancellation policy after the equipment is installed, correct?
Correct. After the equipment is installed, there's no cancellation process. But if they want to cancel prior to that, then they can. I think the 3-day confusion maybe came in is if they continued service thereafter. If they sign a contract, then there's a 3-day right of rescission with that contract. But In this case, we're doing an installation as a service. So if they want to cancel the equipment installation, they have to do it before, not after. There's no cancellation after the initial install.
Appreciate that. Jeff, to answer your question, yes, this is being recorded. We will send out a recap of this webinar with the technical difficulties removed, and we'll have some additional collateral that we'll include in the recap as well. So look for that later this afternoon. So, Rob, we're getting a couple of questions about the residuals. Did you want to maybe address any information that you could provide about that? Can't hear you. All right, we will come back to that one. Josiah, I do have a question for you. Yeah, we got you.
All right, sorry about that. And I just had a filling done this morning, so half my face is numb, so you hear me slurring my words or you see me drooling. That's why, so sorry about that. Yeah, we're super excited about the residuals. That is one of the main changes and kind of, what these packages are enabling. So very excited about it. I think you guys will be too when we send out the details. That's going to be a major change for us and an amazing product that we're very excited to launch with Safe Streets here. So timing is TBD. We have a lot of the kind of big decisions made. We just need to get a little bit further along with the development piece before we launch this. We don't want to put you guys in a position where you're expecting residuals and we don't have it ready to pay yet. So should be within the next couple of months. I would say within the next, call it 3 months, maybe sooner, we'll be able to release those and talk a little bit more about them.
Thanks, Rob. We have a question for Josiah. Do they have the Safe Streets contracts? Are they available in Spanish?
Not that I'm aware of. We do have Spanish-speaking agents that can assist our customers, but at the contract signature, all that is in English as of today. But we do have Spanish-speaking agents to assist Spanish-speaking customers.
All right, so you're going to be doing some of the heavy lifting here. Additional question on top of the, once the 12 months is over, is the post 12-month service an opt-in or opt-out? How do they go about that once they're finished with the 12 months?
Yeah, good question. So the way we design the process is that we would expect that they would want to continue because of the value of the service. And so after the 12 months, if they don't want to continue service at the discounted rates provided for each package, then they would just need to opt out or call us to do that.
We do have a couple of thanks, Josiah. We do have a couple of questions about what those cancellation fees are. We will include that information in the recap. We do have collateral for that. So once we send the recap out, it will have a breakdown of the new packages and what the an updated guide and what those cancellation fees would be, so you can make sure you're setting proper expectations.
Yeah, that'll all be updated in the terms and conditions that we have, and that will be the same link as we had before. So customers and sales reps will be able to go and click the link in the disclosure and or in the opt-in form and have all the details there.
Okay. All right. So we have a question about the cancellation fees. Really. So this one's from Brittany. It's kind of a question about specifically you showed the customer. You inform them of the cancellation fee and they claim they did not. How do we investigate things like that? Josiah, am I wrong in saying that typically that's, they sign the agreement, the information is in the agreement, so we would just have them refer to the agreement they signed?
Mark, let me take this one actually, because this would be more on the Freedom side than the Safe Streets side. So anybody who opts into these packages and signs up for them will sign a terms and conditions document at point of sale, or they'll, excuse me, let me rephrase that. They will sign an opt-in form at point of sale, and that opt-in form, in that opt-in form, they are agreeing to the terms and conditions that are hosted on the Freedom Forever website, which is freedomforever.com/safestreets-promo. You guys can all check those out. That link is included in the opt-in, and they're agreeing to all of those terms and conditions. Within those terms and conditions, it outlines the cancellation fees and all of that. So by virtue of the fact that they signed up, they are agreeing and are being bound by those cancellation fees. So that situation, we would be able to show them the applicant form and say, hey, listen, I understand you may not have realized it, but you did sign this and you did agree to the terms and conditions.
Thanks, Rob. So a question we've received in our Q&A is, after the 12 months are up, a customer decides to keep the equipment but not continue the monitoring. What exactly are they losing with the monitoring? Josiah, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so they would lose the connectivity of the service. So if they cancel monitoring service, then they wouldn't have, especially for the monitored packages, they wouldn't have dispatch service. So if there was an emergency, there would be no response. So they definitely want to keep the devices connected to monitoring service moving forward. It's highly encouraged, but frankly, if they end up turning off the service they're canceling, they have the devices, but they wouldn't have the connection to service.
Hey, Mark, can I just give a quick word on kind of the cancellation piece real quick?
Sure, Rob.
I just want to give a high level here and, explain briefly kind of how this works behind the scenes with the payment parties and then kind of what we're trying to accomplish with the cancellation piece. So in case you didn't know, the way that this works is Safe Streets has a cost for the packages and the installation. Freedom pays Safe Streets directly when the installation is completed. So we're making an investment to Safe Streets upfront, kind of on behalf of that customer, so to speak. If the customer cancels the solar, that is when we would go and seek the cancellation fees for the smart home if it were installed and the solar cancels. Our goal is not to collect, we're not trying to make money on this. We're not trying to be, bad stewards here. We're in an ideal world, we wouldn't charge anybody a cancellation fee because they would continue on with their solar installation. That is the whole goal here, right? But there is a cost that Freedom paid for those customers if they do cancel. And of course, we need to be made whole for that cost that we paid. So, the purpose is kind of twofold. It's one to, ideally get the customer back on board with their solar installation, because that's at the end of the day, what we want here with this, in addition to giving the customers a great, products and a great service and a great experience from Safe Streets. But in the event that they don't continue on, of course, we want to kind of recoup the money that we paid on their behalf. So just a quick word on that. Again, we're not trying to, that is the intent of the cancellation fees.
And Rob, we've had a couple questions in the Q&A about projects that DQ, even after the install of the Safe Streets. Would the customer owe anything there? I know you had that in the presentation, but can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, for sure. Generally not. Again, I mean, it's if the project changed and it wasn't, due to the customer, then generally the answer would be no. I mean, in that case, we would propose to them, so we signed a contract and we said, hey, here's what we think we can do. If we come back to them and we say, hey, we couldn't do that, but we can do this, whether that's a change order or a new agreement, essentially and kind of legally, that is a new agreement. So we don't expect them to be bound to that one that they haven't signed yet. They signed the original, we can't do that, but we can do the second one. So if we can't fulfill our end of that agreement, or we DQ the job, or we come back and say, hey, it's going to be XYZ, much more money because you have extra work, whatever the case may be, those are situations where we generally would not seek the cancellation fee.
Thanks, Rob. We do have a question from Ryan. I'll pop it up on screen here. Will Safe Streets take over existing Z-Wave security from previous monitoring companies? Is there any conflict if the customer already has an existing ADT monitoring agreement?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Brian. So if they have existing equipment that's compatible with our packages and service, we can incorporate that existing equipment into their system. So the answer is yes on that piece, but it does have to be compatible. So we always defer to the technician and the professional installer. So if any of your customers ever have questions of compatibility or if they can tie in existing equipment, I would defer to the installer to verify that before we make that commitment. But if it is compatible, we can tie it in. And then if they have an existing ADT monitored system and agreement, they are eligible for the basic package, which we can add on to that. They just wouldn't be eligible for a monitoring package because that would compete with the existing ADT's monitoring package they already have.
All right, thanks so much. And so this is a question about some of the solar monitoring. Does that require the monthly subscription? even after the 12 months, or is that something that's kind of included as like an overall part of their package?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Jared Nelson is on or he can speak, but maybe Jared, if you are on, you can give an overview of some of that technology and how it connects in the app experience and through the Qualsys panel on the monitored packages.
Yeah, so there's a connection directly with whichever inverters kind of are installed on there that would allow that production data to be added directly to the Alarm.com app, and they'll be able to see that production data right in there. And additionally, it'll also be presented on the IQ Hub panel. Well, there'll be essentially a screen. There's a bunch of different screens in there, some for lights, locks, thermostats, a monitoring, arming, disarming screen. But additionally, there will also be a production screen in there that they'll be able to scroll through and be able to see that production data directly on the IQ Hub in the home.
All right, appreciate that. So one of the last questions we have here, unless we have some more that are going to pop in. So on the higher packages, could the customer have for instance, they don't go past the 12 months. The basics package offers that $10 a month function. Is that something that someone could convert to after the 12 months if they just wanted the simple $10 a month monitoring from the basics?
Yeah, so the way it's set up right now is whatever package they select, they would be defaulted to the discounted rate of the $10, $30, $50, or $60. We don't really have a downgrade program as of today. Brian, Rob, that's something we could maybe discuss if they had a higher package and solution but wanted to downgrade to a different connection service. But to answer the second question that I see on the screen, they would need to be connected to the app in order to see their solar production and consumption. But as of right now, there's not really a downgrade program to one of the lower package services if they have a higher one.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, folks, we are still waiting for some more questions to pop into our Q&A. So while we have a moment of reflection, I do want to thank everyone for being here, our guest speakers, and everyone that had questions for the Q&A. We will send out a recap later this afternoon that will address a lot of the questions that were on here. And then it'll also be added to our video library inside of Lightspeed. So we're going to keep this open for a few more minutes. If you have any more questions related to these new Safe Streets packages or anything Safe Streets related. If not, we'll probably wrap this up here in a few minutes. So we'll leave this open for a few more minutes.